Some bright morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to that home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. I'll fly away.
When the shadows of this life have gone, I'll fly away. Like a bird from these prison walls I'll fly. I'll fly away.
I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. I'll fly away. Oh, how glad and happy when we meet. I'll fly away. No more cold iron shackles on my feet. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. I'll fly away. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away to the land where joys will never end. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. I'll fly away. I'll fly away.
Good morning and welcome everyone. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race, for I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race, for I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race, for I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race, for I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race, for I don't want to run this race in vain, this race in vain.
Good morning and welcome everyone to White Bear Unitarian Universalist Church. We are a covenanted community of youth, adults, and children honoring pluralism in our spiritual searching and practices and committed to ethics grounded in action. I'm Victoria Safford. I use she, her pronouns. We're starting to return to our beloved church home with in-person gatherings. Today at 2, there are still some spaces available for our courtyard gathering and flower communion. You can register through the link in the chat box or send me an email to let us know you're coming. Watch the e-news to register for upcoming gatherings in the courtyard and also inside. From now through the end of July, we are honored to welcome beloved guest speakers and former ministers back to our pulpit. This morning's preacher is the Reverend David Schwartz. Starting in August, David will be lead minister at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder, Colorado. This summer, he departs from Beverly Unitarian Church in Chicago, where he served since 2017, and First Unitarian Church of Chicago, where he served in co-ministry with his wife, the Reverend Terry Schwartz, since 2013. He shares that he's proud and deeply grateful to have been our intern here at WBUUC from 2009 through 2011. David lives with Terry, their 2 kids, 4 cats, and Pilot, one truly enormous dog. Music today is from Craig Hansen and Carol Coet, with support behind the scenes from Anna Garris and Aaron Scott. Welcome to our church. Together we grow our souls and serve the world in love.
Friends, it is so good to be with you, to be back again, even in this virtual space. And from the First Unitarian Church in Chicago, which you've got behind me, from Beverly Unitarian Church, also in Chicago, and from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder, Colorado, I bring greetings and a warm welcome. Friends, come in. Come into this space which we make holy by our presence. Come in with all your vulnerabilities and strengths, your fears and anxieties and loves and hopes, for here you need not hide nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this space where we can heal and be healed, forgive and be forgiven. Come into this space where the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, the compassionate is expected. Come into this space. Together we make it a holy space.
I'm Bob Shaw, a 14-year member of this church. We've been hunkered down for a long time, isolated from our friends, our co-workers on the job, and even our family members. Now we're all emerging from the darkness of COVID, and we're steadily reuniting with them, and I see so many signs of hope. My favorite quote about hope is from Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches on the soul, and sings the tunes without the words, and never stops at all. So I like the challenge today for hope.
Please join me in the opening words. Love, spirit of the church, and service to all. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. The hymn is, I Am Willing.
I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up to the light of change. There's a hurting in my family, there is a sorrow in my town, there's a panic in the nation, there is wailing the whole world round. May the children see more clearly, may the elders be more wise, may the winds of change caress us, even though it burns our eyes. Give me a mighty yoke to hold my confusion. Give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. I am open, I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up to the light of change.
Hi, I'm Sue Will with the Project Home team. Our offering today will support Project Home, the emergency shelter run by Interfaith Action for families experiencing homelessness. WBUUC is a longtime partner of Project Home. Hundreds of us have helped over many years house families in our church building. Project Home and our guest families are grateful for all your past work. Here's a recent video reminding us of how important this work is.
I've been homeless in the cold a lot of times. So just for me to have Project Home here right now in place for me to prevent that, I'm so grateful for it.
This is a very different year from past program years. The pandemic has created the need for change that we could not have imagined. So after more than 20 years of providing shelter for families facing homelessness in Ramsey County through partnerships with area churches and synagogues and schools and other faith communities, we have had to change our model.
Well, you know, with the COVID, people aren't letting their friends and family stay with them now. So we did double in capacity. We normally have 40 guests between the two sites, and now we have 80 guests under one roof.
We partnered with Ramsey County to find a local St. Paul hotel that would open their arms to us and welcome us so that the families could be more safe during this time.
Every family have their own room. We have a dining area now. We have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have a cook. The tables are 6 feet apart, so everybody is staying safe.
People here is respectful, nice. They make sure you have what you need when you need it. It's a nice support system here.
Economic mobility is a big part of what we're trying to achieve here. And part of families gaining stability is to increase their economic mobility.
We have a savings program. So whatever income the families have, we do a budget and so much is saved. So when the families move out, they will have a little nest egg to start off with.
I support the saving program 100%. Honest truth, because you never know what you're gonna run into in the future, after you leave this program. So it gives you a backup, you have money. So I support it 100%.
Due to the pandemic, we're not able to utilize the valuable volunteers that we have come to rely upon. So we are asking all volunteers if they can share with us their resources in other ways. That will keep so many more families safe and off the streets.
Project Home helped me and my family in a very big way. Just finding stability, and I just got hired, a new hire for the University of Minnesota, which is a great paying job, great benefits, and I'm so excited about it. I feel like there's an opportunity for Solange to attend by me being an employee there too. So, she's only 4. So if I could get that time, I am gonna put in that time so she could attend the U of M. That is one of my ultimate goals right now.
There's only so much you could do when you're on a smaller budget, It could happen to anybody, because it certainly happened to me. No, not right now. The staff members here, they were so respectful and they made all our needs. Project Home, they made you feel like you're just at home,
Project Home moved from the hotel you just saw to a new location this past March. They are now leasing the Provincial House from the Sisters of St. Joseph in St. Paul near the St. Kate's campus. They are not asking us to house families in our building this fall, but may well again ask in 2022. In the meantime, as we just heard, the need is great. Let us support our friends at Project Home with a generous donation today. Thank you.
Our first reading is an old story called The Hidden Treasure of Rabbi Isaac. It goes like this. Long ago in the city of Krakow, which is the most beautiful city in Poland, which is a country far, far, far from here, there was a rabbi who was very poor. He had little to eat and old clothes and only one pair of shoes. And his house was tiny. The floor was dirt. The wood stove was set there right on top of the dirt. But even so, every Friday night, he would always say the prayers and light the candles to remember that the holy is right here among us. His name was Rabbi Isaac. After many, many years of this, he dreamt that someone told him to look for a treasure. A voice told him in his dream that the treasure was under a bridge which led to the king's palace in the faraway city of Prague. And then the next night, he had exactly the same dream again. Go and look for treasure under the bridge which leads to the king's palace in the city of Prague. And then for a third night in a row, he has the same dream. Go and look for treasure under the bridge which leads to the king's palace in the city of Prague. So, what can you do? Be prepared for the journey and set out to walk to Prague, which would be like walking from St. Paul to Chicago. And at last he arrived, and he found the bridge that led to the king's palace. But there was a problem. The bridge was guarded day and night by soldiers, and Isaac didn't dare start digging, for surely he'd be thrown in jail. Still, he went to the bridge every morning, and he kept walking around it all the way through till evening. And finally, the captain of the guards, who had been watching him suspiciously for several days, came over. He didn't ask Isaac's name. He didn't say hello. He just demanded, "What are you looking for? Who are you waiting for?" And so Rabbi Isaac told him of the 3 dreams, exactly the same every night, that had brought him here from his home far away. And the captain laughed at him, not very kindly, and said, "So because of a dream, you wore out your only pair of shoes to come here?" He spat. "If I had faith in dreams, I would long ago have gone to Krakow. For I dreamed once, 3 nights in a row, that I would find treasure buried under the stove in the room of some Jew named Isaac the rabbi. Go find treasure under the stove of Isaac the rabbi." I can imagine what it would be like. I'd have to try every house. Half of the Jews are named Isaac and the other half are rabbis. And he laughed again, not kindly. Rabbi Isaac said nothing, but now he knew where to find the treasure. He traveled home and dug up the treasure from under his own stove. And with that money built the house of prayer, which is called the Rabbi Isaac Shul, the house of prayer which still stands there in Krakow, 350 years later, having survived fire and war. The story of Rabbi Isaac ends with this riddle that I'll share with you now. It goes like this: take this story to heart and make what it says your own. There is something you cannot find anywhere in the world, not even at the house of a miracle worker. And there is, nonetheless, a place where you can find it.
The second reading is a poem by Tony Hoagland called Voyage. I feel as if we opened a book about great ocean voyages and found ourselves on a great ocean voyage, sailing through December, around the Horn of Christmas and into the January sea, and sailing on in a novel without a moral, but one in which all the characters who died in the middle chapters made the sunsets near the book's end more beautiful. And someone is spreading a map upon a table, and someone is hanging a lantern from the stern, and someone else says, "I'm only sorry that I forgot my blue parka. It's turning cold." Sunset like a burning wagon train, sunrise like a dish of cantaloupe, clouds like 2 armies clashing in the sky, icebergs and tropical storms. That's the kind of thing that happens on our ocean voyage. And in one of the chapters, I was blinded by love, and in another, anger made us sick like swallowed glass. And I lay in my bunk and slept for so long, I forgot about the ocean, which all the time was going by right there outside my cabin window. And the sides of the ship were green as money, and the water made us sound like memory when we sailed. And it was summer, under the constellation of the swan, under the constellation of the horse. At night, we consoled ourselves by discussing the meaning of homesickness. But there was no home to go home to. There was no getting around the ocean. We had to go on finding out the story by pushing into it. The sea was no longer a metaphor. The book was no longer a book. That was the plot. That was our marvelous punishment.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white. Bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies crying, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
The story tells us that long, long ago in the city of Krakow, which is apparently the most beautiful city of Poland, which is a country far, far, far from here, there was a rabbi named Rabbi Isaac who dreamed the same dream 3 nights in a row. Go and search for a hidden treasure, a dream that comes to him with urgency, with vividness, power he can't ignore, a dream that tells him, walk away from whatever you're doing, walk away from the ordinariness of your days and go find a hidden treasure. And in the dream, in the story, it's not even clear what the treasure is, only that it was precious and he was to take to the road and search for it. I have had some variety of that experience in church from time to time, some seasons of my life. Maybe you have too. I know I'm supposed to be here. I know I'm supposed to be looking for something, for someone I'm called to be. And I don't know what precisely that is or means. I don't know where the journey will lead, only that I am to make it. This story, this Rabbi Isaac story endures because despite its fantasy, it says something real about what it is to be human. Out of this life, there is something that has woken you and won't let you go back to sleep again. There's a knock on the door that you've answered. There's a word from the holy, whatever name you call it, whatever form it's come, that won't let you go back to sleep. And that's brought you here to make a life in this house among a company of traveling people, searching people. What makes this story a distinctly Jewish tale and not just a great Eastern European folk tale is what Isaac does with the treasure. He builds a synagogue, a house of prayer, a gathering place for his community. And so in following the dream and following this call, it isn't just treasure he finds, but an ultimate treasure, a place for his whole community to reach for God, to reach for the spark of divine between each other. This treasure that he finds at the end of his journey is a house where his people can journey together, following that word from the holy which comes in the middle of the night. Returning home, he found an ending, yes, but also an invitation into new beginning. Soon after I came to Chicago, I heard the story of the Second Unitarian Church in the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Second Unitarian burned to the ground, rubble. And on the cover of the November 4th, 1871 Harper's Weekly, back when it's a giant national newspaper with a huge circulation, on the cover of Harper's Weekly, taking up the whole top half of the page, is an engraving of their minister preaching, standing preaching amid the ruins of the church with this congregation of people gathered close all around him, no social distancing. I had heard that exact story, the not told about Second Unitarian, I had heard that story many times from Victoria during the years I was with you out there. When she would explain the meaning of membership, she would say, if the church burns down on a Saturday night, friends and visitors will go elsewhere on Sunday morning, and that's okay. We wish them well, but members of the church will be there on Sunday morning for a service amid the ruins. So they plan together what comes next. That church, Second Unitarian, it had an ending, which was also an invitation into a new beginning, and the members showed right back up again the very next Sunday with grief and loss, yes, of course, and uncertainty for the future. But they knew they were already home, right there among the ruins. The congregation was no less a congregation for not having a building. And just like when your minister leaves on a Saturday night, you're still going to show up Sunday morning for a service with your other ministers and musicians and staff and congregation. The ministry of your congregation isn't your minister, it's all of you together. I know that well in my own endings as my service here at First Unitarian and down at Beverly comes to a close in the next few weeks and I go west. Grief and loss, yes, of course, and uncertainty for the future. But y'all are already home. You don't need to wait to start being who you are and who you're called to be. Years and years ago, before ministry, I was thinking of being a teacher and I was doing my student teaching. In the very first week of school, I'm sure some of you heard the story 10 years ago, in my very first week of school, this is like day 2, I'm sitting in study hall, overhearing two freshmen, they've been in high school all of 2.5 days, and they already know what's up. One of them says to the other, I can't wait until we're seniors. I can't wait until we're seniors. They can do so much. We're like, ugh. Shakespeare and the King James Bible together could not say it any more eloquently. They can do so much. We're like, ugh. I can't even articulate the depth of emotion that is in that word, ugh. There's a belief that what they had was worthless. They had none of the benefits, the advantages, the privileges that would surely come in time. They weren't adults like those high school seniors were. They weren't whole like those high school seniors were. These two kids, they honestly, as far as I can tell, entirely believed that once they were seniors, everything would be better than it was as freshmen. And of course, we can laugh at that because most of us discovered at age 18 that it was really the 21-year-olds who had it made. And then at 21, it looked like the 25-year-olds were leading the good life. And then at 25, you start to look back on freshman year of high school when everything's so simple. How do we get back there again? The promise of future wholeness is so close and always out of reach. Tantalus, like Tantalus in the Greek myths, Tantalus who was cursed with terrible hunger and thirst and stood in a fresh, clear stream with grapes hanging just above him. And when he would bend down to drink, the stream would move away from his lips. And when he reached up to eat, the grapes just out of reach pulled back. So that over and over and over again, he tried, almost getting there. That can easily become the story that we tell about ourselves as people, but also the story that we tell ourselves about our community, about our church. Once we get a new building, once we get a new minister, once it's September again, then we can go back to being a church. Then we can start, then we'll be whole, then we'll be good enough. But there's nothing down that road. That path, that always almost there path doesn't go anywhere. There's always one more thing until wholeness. And the point of being here is not just to be the people we're called to be, it's to be the people we are too right now, not to wait, not to start later, but to be here now. We can fall into that same trap as a congregation, but we don't have to. We don't have to. 3 weeks before they hired me as their minister in 2017, Beverly Unitarian Church, way down in the southwest corner of Chicago, they learned their 140-year-old building, this thing that had been built as this old limestone mansion made to look like a castle, Chicago's only castle. They learned this building was crumbling from the inside. They had used the wrong kind of mortar to repair. I know more about limestone than I possibly expected to learn in ministry. But look, without a monumental repair project, 5 times their annual budget, this building was going to come down around them. The stones up in these towers were going to fall through the roof, and then the floor, and then the next floor, and then all the way down to the ground. So there I arrived. And to their great credit, they didn't come to me and say, Reverend David, what do we do? They didn't. They knew better than that. And instead, I accompanied them in their own discernment, listening in small groups and in one-on-one conversations to the people who shared their love and sometimes their loathing for that weird, wonderful little building. And I gave a steady, good word to a few who worried that this would be the end. And together we named the different outcomes, the different possibilities. Staying or going, restoring the building, trying to do it and failing, and reminding always that whatever those changes were, those changes didn't mean the end, reminding them that the building exists to serve the congregation, not the other way around, reminding them that what was real and enduring about the congregation, what was real, what would last, was the community and the strength of connection, the covenant of love and respect with each other. It was clear that they had their priorities straight. And it took a little bit of doing sometimes. But this October, 9 months ago, the last of the scaffolding came down from construction. This congregation, this little congregation of 75 members, raised $1 million, this beautiful, deeply improbable outcome, and restored the building to keep it standing another century. They were a group of people who could do difficult things and come out stronger as a community on the other side. They knew that the building was not the church, just like they know and you know that the ministry of the congregation is not the minister, it's all of us together. I heard of a Norwegian fairy tale in which the hero comes to a crossroads and 3 paths lie ahead, each labeled conveniently, since it's a fairy tale, with what's going to happen if they go down that path. And the one to the left is marked, travel down this road, and you will return to this place unharmed and unchanged. And then the second path to the right is marked, travel down this road, and you may or may not return to this place unchanged and unharmed. And the third road in the middle, which is surely the roughest of the paths and leads into the hills and has storm clouds gathering, the third road is marked, travel down this path, and you will never return here again. And so, of course, in the fairy tale, our hero chooses the third path, never to return. How else would you discover the outcome of your journey unless it leads to a place and a person and a people you have not yet been? The poet writes, I feel as if we opened a book about great ocean voyages and found ourselves on a great ocean voyage. I feel this so intensely, this pandemic voyage, this pandemic year. I know what that is, to sail around through December and around the horn of Christmas and into the January sea. And whether it's pandemic year or regular living, you know what it is, that in one of the chapters you were blinded by love, and in another, anger made you sick like swallowed glass, and you lay in your bunk and slept for so long that you forgot about the ocean, which all the time was going by outside your cabin window. Friends, we know what it is to console ourselves and discuss the meaning of homesickness, but there is no home to go back to. There is no getting around this ocean of living. And we go on finding out the story by pushing into it. The sea is no longer a metaphor, and this book and poem is no longer a book. It is the plot. This is our marvelous punishment, our marvelous journey. Godspeed and amen.
David, thank you. Godspeed and amen. Friends, let's take a breath here for just a moment in the stillness of the summer day and the gladness of the summer rain. Let's be silent for just a moment together. Spirit of life, God of 1,000 names and beyond all naming, we have traveled so far since we last met in person, traveled in place to places of the heart and mind and spirit we barely knew existed before this time apart. Some folks tell us it's been easy. They say this not in arrogance or pride, but with a twinge of guilt maybe, or at least awareness that good luck always falls unevenly, like rain, like sunshine. Others say they traveled differently. They're traveling still through grief, through illness, loss, children, youth, adults, and elders, struggling still behind their masks, whether paper, cloth, or something else, the mask of fear or sadness. All of us, each one, has traveled far since we last met, to the outer rim of all we know or thought we knew, and now we're coming home, changed, forever changed, and yet the same in our shared need, the same as ever, only more so. Our shared need for love, compassion, grace, our shared need for forgiveness, laughter, the fond embrace of friendly hands, arms, eyes, the gladness of our spoken names out loud, in person, out loud. Had we known that we were leaving, we would have blessed the journey, blessed each other. Instead, with wonder, you will bless the coming home. Amen. The hymn is What Wondrous Love.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down beneath my sorrow's ground, friends to me gathered round, oh my soul, oh my soul. Friends to me gathered round, oh my soul. To love and to all friends I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends who pain and sorrow mend, with thanks unto the end I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end I will sing.
Please join me in the closing words. May peace dwell within our hearts and understanding in our minds. May courage steel our will and love of truth forever guide us. Thank you, friends, for being here today. Thanks to Carol, Anna, and Aaron, and to the Reverend David Schwartz. Cyber Social Hour begins at 11:15. You'll find a link in the chat box. And join us today in person at 2, if you like, for today's courtyard gathering and flower communion. You can register online through the link in the chat or send me an email just to let us know you're coming. We are sending love to you from all of us at all of our locations in Illinois and Minnesota and from 328 Maple Street. Be well, everyone.